From Provo, Utah, this is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Caleb Schweiss. This is Ultima Final Fantasy.
Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. I am your host, Caleb Schweiss.
And I am your other host, Joseph DeGolier.
And today we will be doing our awesome segment on... what is his name?
We did an entire write-up for this guy. Yoshinori Kitase.
Yoshinori Kitase.
Yeah. One of the people behind Final Fantasy.
Yeah, one of the big people behind Final Fantasy. Surprisingly. I mean, I remember reading that this guy had helped kind of quote-unquote fix some of the craziness with 7 and a few other titles, but he's been pretty influential throughout the entirety of the series. So,
well, once he got involved.
Once he got involved, yeah. At the very beginning, he was
in 5. He started work on 5, and of course he's worked on Final Fantasy since then.
Yeah, so he's a big deal, and thank you for all of you who voted. We will be doing episodes on all of those people at some point. So
right, and we'll do. I think the voting was a good idea. So we're gonna do the voting again in the future.
Okay,
I believe.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Let the listeners decide.
Well, yeah, Yoshinori Kitase won. I thought Hajime Tabata had enough steam behind him to win, but I think he was last.
I think so. No one cares about him.
And then at the beginning, it was like, oh, the people are voting for Nomura. So I thought we were going to do one on Nomura. But then, no, Kitase. Kitase went out.
Yeah.
And I want to apologize. I did close it a little early.
That's okay. I think a few people still voted after. Because I saw that there were more.
Kitase still won.
Yeah.
So.
I mean... even to today, he's still dominating, so.
Exactly.
We went on standard Libsyn time, where the day ends at 6 o'clock. Comes the next day, so.
Libsyn Standard Time.
Yeah, Libsyn Standard Time.
Oh, my goodness. So we do have a new iTunes review. I just have to open up iTunes, which I should have done before the episode started.
Amateur.
But it is a nice review. And, of course, we encourage all of you guys to review because we read the reviews.
We benefit from the reviews.
On the show, and we do benefit.
And we cherish your feedback. I mean,
That's
honestly,
true.
we want to improve the show. We want to be top notch all the time.
Top dog. We're not top dog, but we do
want
want
to
to be top notch.
So,
well, who doesn't want to be top dog? I mean, you're looking at, another Final Fantasy podcast, and they only update once a month. And you're like, we update once a week. We give the same information out, and we're far more entertaining. I don't understand. But they've been around for so much longer.
Yeah, it's the time. I mean, they've had all these years to gain fans.
Yeah, and they're a good podcast. I'm not going to rip on them too much. Okay, so we have our review here. It's a 5-star review. It's from Meekfish83. It's titled Fun Podcast. It's a nice, short, and sweet review. He says, if you love Final Fantasy, you'll love listening to these guys. Great for new and old Final Fantasy info.
That's what we want.
Yep.
That's why we're playing through all these old games, is to, 1, experience it and see the evolution of Final Fantasy. 2, probably masochistic ways. And then 3, just to get everyone interested in playing some of the older games. There's some real gems hidden in the
older games of Final Fantasy, certainly.
Diamonds in the rough.
Yesterday, in fact, trying to beat FF6 on time, which not sure if we're going to. Honestly.
We are essentially in the same place.
Yeah. We played Final Fantasy VI at least I played it for 6.5 hours yesterday.
Yeah, but the sad part is our in-game time only advanced probably about 4.
Probably, you're right.
You had to keep doing stuff over again, and
I'm having trouble on the part where you go up to the floating continent right before the world freaking splits. But that floating continent area, you're on that, and you're stuck there.
Yeah,
just with the random
sort of.
enemies.
I could escape, but I want to kill everything.
I've tried it 4 times in a row now. There's that huge sequence where you have to fight all of the flying guys in like the mech suits or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to take those down, and then you have to fight Ultros and then his friend, and that's all easy. But then comes the Air Force, and the Air Force kicks my butt every time.
Yeah. Do you heal in between the battles between those guys?
No, there's not time. After one battle, you fall, remember?
Oh, that's right. And then you're fighting them in the air, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was like, what the shit?
It took you one try, didn't it?
Yeah.
You asshole.
I had a few dead party members.
I'm going to have to go level up. You're at a higher level than me.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm like quite a bit higher level.
Yeah.
I'm like 5 or 6 levels ahead.
And I didn't realize the magic system in the game till late.
Yeah.
So, like, hardly anyone has any useful spells right now.
Yeah, he was like talking. He's like, man, I wonder when Celis is going to get some spells. And I was like, well, you have to equip the Esper thing for her, or you're not going to get anything. And he's like, what?
It's like, I should have remembered that from last time I played the game, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's a really sweet method of magic in this game. You know, it's kind of refreshing to have something a little new. I mean, I feel like it's kind of similar to some of the others in a way.
Similar to 8.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Or 8 took something out of 6. However, 8 made it unbalanced. And
Yeah. 6 is quite nice. I like it. It's a little refreshing that you don't just get them over time. Or I do like in some of the earlier ones where you buy the spell once and everyone has it. That's pretty sweet as long as the class is accordingly, or is planned accordingly to the spell.
Right.
But
I actually think I prefer. I mean, besides Final Fantasy V, which I think is probably the best one. But if we're talking about, the rest of the series, I prefer like 4, where your characters have a specific class, and they level up to get certain spells.
Yeah, within that class.
So like by level 50, they'll have, whatever the most powerful thing is in that class. So Ultima, let's say, on the Dark Magic or Flare or something.
Yeah, I like that, and I like the Materia system, obviously.
Oh, yeah, Materia
and in 10,
system's really good.
The one in 10 is pretty good too, where everyone can get everything if you play it long enough with the sphere grid. I enjoy that too. It is a giant thing, but
right,
it's kind of nice just to kind of choose your path.
Yeah, it's good. All right, let's quickly get to the news. There were a couple news items this week, so
yeah, let's do it. News. All right, so in light of these pretty awesome memes we've been seeing with the Final Fantasy 15 car and the guys looking over at shit.
I like the one where they're at the drive-thru.
Yeah.
I know there's like a billion of those, but
it's still pretty sweet.
It looks awesome.
And then the one where that one chick is outside of her car and she's like in a bikini, and
the blonde dude's waving at her.
Yeah, that one's pretty good too. So in light of all of those, Hajime Tabata,
what a wonderful name, really.
Yeah, it is a pretty good name. Has requested more of those. So yeah, and they've even gone to the point where they've posted images where it's just them in the car and then a blank screen behind it, so you can just basically crop it in.
It's really easy to Photoshop and stuff.
Yeah. So go to town.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen these memes, search for them because there's some funny ones.
Yeah, the Jurassic Park one was pretty good.
Yeah,
too.
I was thinking of that one too. The Jurassic Park one, the second Jurassic Park where the T-Rex is in San Francisco or whatever. They have those guys in the car
looking over at it.
Oh, it's so great. And yeah, he's encouraging more of that stuff. Now, kind of taking a 180 here, but Final Fantasy XIV's restaurant, the Eorzea Cafe, there is more information on it on a site called rocketnews24.com. It's a I think it's like a Japanese blog, if I'm not entirely sure, but there is an article on here where this guy and I'm assuming some of his friends go to the bar, and they have pictures, and there's like a Moogle drinking alcohol. Yeah, and he talks about, the prices on the menu and how to get tickets for the thing. You have to go to some convenience store and get a ticket for this restaurant. And then the restaurant sits people like 4 times per day, and it's a certain amount of people that they can have. And then like the menus have items listed in gil.
Yeah, that's pretty
instead
sweet.
of in yen. But of course the conversion rate's at the bottom. It's 1 gil to 1 yen. Which is pretty awesome. So
yeah, especially for us because we don't really deal with their yen. I mean, so it seems even more intense as opposed to them. They're probably like, oh, it's the same. And also, Joe made a good point. We think the conversion rates might be
I think his
bullshit,
conversion
the
rate's
pricing.
a little bit off. He does give the yen price, but the US dollar price next to it seems a little low. Like it says here, like this drink here, the 600 gil potion. Or 600 yen potion is 546 US, and I think it'll be more like 750. But
Yeah, we're not 100% sure. We
not
could get
100% sure. You can go on a converter thing if you really want, and they'll give whatever the conversion price is right now for the US dollar rates.
I think it would be sweet if they had a little mini bank in like the very beginning of it, and you could convert your yen to gil, and then I would keep some of the gil, which
So
is
it'd
dumb.
be like a token system,
yeah, like a token
like
system.
Nickelcade.
Like Nickelcade or Chuck E. Cheese, And I would probably keep some of the gil just to have some gil, and then throw it at stuff whenever I wanted to defeat it really quick. Yeah, like my boss.
All right,
Throw some
so there's a bunch of drinks that they serve there, and like the coasters have this really beautiful art on them, and the drink, of course, the potion is it's like some blue alcohol mixed with like orange juice and
grapefruit juice and stuff.
and soda water and lemon, and it's supposed to be really good, and it looks really good.
Yeah, it does.
I'll be honest. And then there's another drink called the Ether, which is a white wine sangria mixed with banana, grapefruit, and lemon juice, which also looks really good. And then we have the Leviathan ramen that he talks about.
Yeah.
And he says he says it's like a citrusy broth, and it's really awesome. But it's like a seafood ramen with blue broth.
Yeah.
And it looks freaky, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks pretty tasty.
And he says it's good.
Looks a lot better than ramen when I make it. That's for sure.
He also had the Gilgamesh pork cutlet, which he says wasn't as good. But the design with all the swords is cool. At least. And then we get to the desserts here, and there's like a Moogle ice cream thing.
It's like an ice cream cake.
And then the Medio cream puff. Which is like some kind of chocolate thing on top of like cream and other stuff. It looks like, meteor smashed into the planet.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then drop some giant blueberries.
Anyway,
too.
this is a really, really cool article. Rocket News 24. The 24 is not written out. It's in numbers.
Yeah.
And go check that out. It's not really news, but it's cool.
So Square Enix also filed a trademark for Mevius Final Fantasy in Europe.
And we're all wondering what it's going to be.
Yeah, there's no info.
They do register trademarks a lot. That tends to be one of our news things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
You Europeans, look out.
Yeah, they're coming for your trademarks.
For your Mevius Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And so along with Final Fantasy Record Keeper being released on iOS, another game quietly appeared on the Japanese iOS store. So if you have access to download this Japanese game, it is called Final Fantasy Worldwide Words, and it's basically a typing game.
Yeah, for your Android or mobile device, your phone.
It's a Japanese typing game where you have to like type fast to defeat enemies.
Yeah, which is really
Type
weird.
words fast. Yeah, it's like a keyboard.
Yeah, I think it would be
game.
awesome if like we had one of these, a full one where it was on the PC, and like our high school classes where we had to do those stupid keyboarding things where like that was the game instead.
It's more like junior high over here.
Junior high, I guess, yeah. But that'd be awesome. Get some high def graphics, some good boss fights, some limit breaks.
That would be sweet. I really wish I had paid more attention when I was typing back then.
Oh yeah.
As you know, I type with about 5 fingers.
Yeah.
And I type at about 26 words per minute.
Yeah, that's pretty slow.
So when I'm doing a write-up on Yoshinori Kitase, it's a little bit rough.
Yeah. I was there, in a way.
Oh, man. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to practice your Japanese typing, it's a free game. But as with Final Fantasy Record Keeper, it's going to have things that they want you to buy in the middle of the game. So
And it's all in Japanese. So.
Yeah, and it's all in Japanese. So have fun with that.
They're also doing...
what's next?
They released the Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 remix in Japan on October 2nd, 2014, and that will be coming to North America December 2nd, Australia December 4th, and the rest of, well, I guess Europe, not the rest of the world, on December 5th, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if you didn't play Kingdom Hearts 2 and the, like, 7 million offshoots, I guess there's only a few.
Birth by Sleep, and then Recoded.
Retardedly worded. Yeah, you can pick it up for your PS3 with higher def graphics and
On December
probably
2nd.
trophies. Yeah, if you are a trophy whore.
Yeah, so get on that, guys. Actually, that's probably the version we're going to play when we get to Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, my PS2 needs a break. Or all these early Final Fantasies.
My PS2 needs a break. My PS2 needs to die.
I think so, too. It scares
It's
me.
having problems with memory card shit. At least your memory card.
Yeah,
I never had that kind of problem.
I was playing 6, and I'd saved my game, and I couldn't exit out of the menu for the save menu. So I was like, what the fuck, man? And I reset the system, but I was really afraid that my memory card was going to get corrupted, and I was going to lose all that data, but I didn't. And then I figured out what it was. Well, okay, I figured out what fixes it. I don't know what it is, but when I save the game, all access to the keys and stuff just shuts down. So I unplug the controller, plug it back in, and then turn on the analog, and then turn it off again. And then I'm able to exit out of the save thing. So not as much of a risk for corrupting the data anymore, but it's still really weird. And when I was playing 4, like the final cutscene just would not play. And the music was all off.
On
You
my
remember that?
PS2, yeah.
It was like super weird.
And then we looked it up on YouTube. Just
was-
well,
yeah.
let's just watch the video on YouTube and
Yeah, it was pretty lame. It was fan service for the high def.
yeah.
Didn't really serve a purpose.
Yep, that's pretty much how it was. I'm gonna go off a little bit off topic here, but talked about the Australian release date, and I was reminded. Sniper912, one of our followers, one of our Australian followers, he posted a comment. He's asking people to add him on PlayStation Network, and so his name on there is Sniper912. The 912 is in numbers, not in letters. So Sniper912, go check him out. And if any of you guys want to really like share your game names or whatever, what do they call those?
Your gamer tags?
Your gamer tags. There is a place to do that in the forum now. It's under miscellaneous. It's called UFF Listeners Unite, and you can go into there and add yourself to that stuff. So I started them. If you want to add me on Steam, on PlayStation Network, even though I don't really check that at all, on League of Legends,
Yeah.
I put all that's, and Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 11. If you want to add me as a friend, or add Caleb Craig, he put his stuff down too. You can go on there. You can also post your own gamer tags for other listeners of this podcast to make friends with other listeners.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Maybe I'll jump on League and show you guys how it's done if you ever add me.
I'm really terrible at League, so don't if you're gonna add me for fun. Don't add me for sport.
Yeah, for seriousness. And I'm not really that good either, honestly. But I've been playing it longer.
We do play pretty often, and on Steam we play Civ 5 quite. Well, not lately, but
that's probably our favorite game on
quite
Steam.
a bit. Yeah.
To get together and play. And that would be a fun one for us because, Final Fantasy requires some strategy. Maybe not as much as Civ 5, but we like the slow, lumbering games.
When we get to 11 and 14, of course, we'll probably add more people, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
So, yeah. Anyway, so that was off topic. But our last piece of news here is Kingdom Hearts 3. I know a lot of people were asking for Frozen, and one of the developers said something about Frozen, but he says that it was taken out of context, and that he simply stated how he liked the game Frozen. His name is Tai Yasui. And, Frozen the movie, not just Frozen.
I'm sure the game is terrible.
Anyway, Frozen is not going... The world of Frozen, the characters of Frozen are not going to make an appearance in Kingdom Hearts 3. And that's going to disappoint some people, but personally, I don't care.
Yeah, it's so-so, I guess.
Yeah. Of course, people were like, with these 3D Disney movies, ever since... What was the first Disney 3D one? It was like Meet the Robinsons? I know Pixar is owned by Disney now, but it wasn't owned by Disney then.
Yeah.
So ever since then, people have been going, well, is this going to show up in Kingdom Hearts? Because a 3D computer-generated world would seem easy to convert over to a video game setting. And they're right about that. So Frozen, Bolt, Meet the Robinson.
Yeah.
What else? Tangled.
Tangled would be one.
So
Brave.
Brave is Pixar.
Oh, is Brave Pixar?
Yeah, Brave is Pixar. But since Disney owns Pixar now, I guess
they could do whatever.
All those Pixar movies are now possibly up for
Kingdom Hearts.
Except for Frozen. They said no Frozen.
Yeah, so sorry guys if you cared.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's go on to our spotlight.
Let's do it.
On Yoshinori Kitase.
Yoshinori Kitase. Admittedly, any information on Yoshinori Kitase before he started working at Square is very sparse. All we know before then is that he was born on September 23rd, 1966, way before us. And at age 12, he saw Star Wars for the first time. Later, he watched a making-of documentary on Star Wars and became interested in the filmmaking process.
He says, I watched Star Wars in the theater at age 12. I questioned whether it mattered if it was realistic. And then I thought, so what? I found it shocking that they were able to create such a deep science fiction world and that you were able to feel was real. Before then, I was just watching movies as an audience member, but because of that film, I became interested in the work of the people behind the scenes. These film origins have affected me greatly during my time making video games.
Due to his filmmaking interests, he enrolled in the Nihon University College of Art and studied filmmaking and screenwriting. Although he liked the filmmaking process, Kitase fell in love with editing and the post-production aspect of storytelling.
It was much more fun for me to bring... This is what he says.
Yeah.
It was much more fun for me to bring back what we had shot and edit the material than it was to actually go out and shoot it. I feel that assembling an image in a darkroom can affect the meaning much more than when shooting. You see the connection before your eyes, the sense of rhythm that is gradually born in the video. by changing how we piece the film together, we can manipulate the feelings of the viewers.
And see, that's like the opposite of me. I would not want to do that part. I would want to do the fun part where I'm actually filming.
See, with my
creating.
short films, I have to do all of it.
Which part do you prefer?
Editing is fun, but editing is also frightening. After you've like shot what you think you've shot, and then you go into edit, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is
horrible.
not what I meant."
Yeah, I could see that.
But I know a lot of people in film school right now that really prefer editing. They like the editing. They like messing with the stuff.
See, that would be my.
I like it all. I like it all. I like the writing, and I like the shooting, and I like the editing.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So they all have their good parts. They all have their bad parts.
Okay.
The shooting part, I have to deal with people.
That's true.
I have to deal with actors.
Yeah.
The editing part, I have to deal with time.
Yeah.
And how much time is just wasting
Yeah,
away as
and
I work on a video.
For very little, smallly noticeable things.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, post-graduation, Kitase worked at a small animation studio associated with Yoyogi, where he helped make commercials.
Yoyogi.
Yeah. Yoyogi. Sounds like
It's
like
a
Yo-Yo
it's a
Ma. Isn't that like a
well, that's where
celloist?
when I was looking at this Japanese article, and the article I was looking at was in Japanese, so it was hard to like the translation stuff was a little hard. Yoyogi seemed to be where he worked in animation, and it's associated with certain anime shows, but Yoyogi's a school of animation, so I was unsure. So when I say it's a studio associated with Yoyogi, it could be in a studio in Yoyogi, or just associated with it.
It was just hard to decipher.
Not totally sure on that.
Okay, so he helped make commercials and animated television programs. In school, he was introduced to Final Fantasy for the first time, just like me, and he decided to explore the storytelling potential of the video game industry instead of film.
Probably because he didn't like shooting. Probably because he wanted to sit on his butt
And edit.
And edit.
Yeah. So
Even though he does a lot of writing. Honestly.
Yeah, he does.
Despite the fact that Kitase could hardly use a computer at the time, Kitase applied to Square and in 1990 was hired to write scenarios. His first credits were on Final Fantasy Adventure as both the writer and designer, along with Koichi Ichii. Ichii came up with the main story, but Kitase came up with the key plot points and scripted them into the game.
In an odd turn to his career, his next game at Square, Romancing Saga, had him credited as field map designer.
I found that odd. When I was looking at his credits, I was like, okay, he's writer on everything, but on Romancing Saga and on Final Fantasy V, field map designer.
Yeah.
It's just strange.
That is odd.
So, yeah, he was hired as a field map designer. Kitase must have gained some notoriety in the company because his next job had him writing along with Hironobu Sakaguchi on the scenario of Final Fantasy V.
That's a pretty big jump there.
Yeah. From like a handheld Final Fantasy adventure and Romancing Saga, a small job on Romancing Saga to Final Fantasy V. Yeah, you're right. It's a big jump. It is said that Hironobu Sakaguchi came up with the main story and that Kitase rewrote it, adding to it humor and a lighter feel to the work. He is also credited on Final Fantasy V as a field and event planner, as we talked about.
So, as we discussed on our spotlight on Hironobu Sakaguchi, Final Fantasy V would conclude Sakaguchi's career as a director on the games. And he took more of a backseat producing role.
Right.
Kitase's work at the company had given him enough clout to become co-director on the next big Final Fantasy release, Final Fantasy VI, along with Hiroyuki Ito, who would go on to direct Final Fantasy IX and XII. Kitase was to be completely in charge of the story and event aspects of the game, while Ito focused on the gameplay.
So this is on the Final Fantasy that we're, of course, playing right now. And I found out that other people in the forums are actually playing kind of along with us. They're all playing 6,
yeah.
which is awesome, guys. Well, hopefully you don't get done before we do, because
that'd be embarrassing.
that would be embarrassing. It was Kitase and Sakaguchi who decided on a multi-protagonist structure of the plot and the episodic nature of the story. And the quote is...
We began work on Final Fantasy VI with the idea that every character is the protagonist of the story. Everyone on the team contributed ideas for characters into a melting pot. We were very keen to design a game featuring individual episodes for each character. In fact, Final Fantasy VI's influence may have been responsible for the greater emphasis on character creation in subsequent titles in the series.
Many people were credited with the writing of the scenario, but Kitase is credited with specifically all of Kefka's appearances, spoiler alert, Celis' suicide attempt, and of course the famous opera scene in the game.
The game would go on to become hugely successful and solidify Kitase as a valued member of Square's staff.
He worked with Akihito Matsui and Takashi as co-director of another classic Square game, Chrono Trigger, where he helped write various subplots before he returned once again to Final Fantasy. This Final Fantasy would have him as the sole director, Final Fantasy VII.
With the scenario based on ideas from Hironobu Sakaguchi and Tetsuya Nomura, and rewritten by Kitase, along with Kazushige Nojima. Wow, man, that's intense.
That's a rough name.
Yeah. That was hard for my tongue to speak. Final Fantasy VII would, of course, prove to be the most successful Final Fantasy game ever made, at least to this point.
Yeah.
It was Kitase who decided to take the series into a third dimension, as he felt that Square may get left behind if they didn't catch up with the new technologies, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
This decision would make Final Fantasy VII the most expensive game of all time. Up
to that point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's still up there, though. It's still...
Which is scary, considering how much Grand Theft Auto 5 cost.
Yeah.
That it's even close. Anyway... And had the game not been a success and sell more than 10 million copies, Final Fantasy could have ended right there.
Yeah, because Square could have gone under if with the amount of money that they put on that game.
Well,
at that time, Square could have gone.
That, coupled with what we're going to discuss next, definitely could have been the end.
Well, it's not really coupled with, because it's a few years later, and of course the company was doing well.
True, and they probably would have never done the...
And the company did survive.
It did. But could they have survived both?
If 7 had failed, it would have been horrible. While Hironobu Sakaguchi shifted his focus to his own utter destruction, the movie that eventually would be Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, Shinji Hashimoto took his role as producer on Final Fantasy VIII. Kitase would come back as director and would provide the jumping off point for the story. Although this time the scenario was completely authored by Kazushige Nojima. Perhaps the game could have used a rewrite by Kitase, but we'll focus on that a little more in our review of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes, we will.
Final Fantasy VIII has story problems.
Yeah, there's continuity errors.
And I realized as I wrote this, Shinji Hashimoto was another figure in Square, and instead of Hironobu Sakaguchi producing, Shinji Hashimoto decided to produce. I realized it was kind of weirdly worded.
Right.
So just clearing that up.
Kitase wanted a mix of realism and fantasy, as well as a non-Japanese foreign atmosphere.
To Final Fantasy VIII. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which probably led to the more realistically proportioned characters... God, finally. Dreamed up by Tetsuya Nomura, and the more natural lighting and design of the world. Despite the shadow looming over the game from the success of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII would sell nearly as well. More than 8.5 million copies. It is also the fastest selling Final Fantasy, with 2.5 million units moved in the first 4 weeks of release.
As far as its credits are concerned, Kitase didn't touch Final Fantasy IX, which I find is odd.
Yeah.
I know Final Fantasy IX started out originally as another game, but yeah, he didn't even touch Final Fantasy IX. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But his next project would be Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitase wanted to make the highest quality game possible with Final Fantasy X and challenged the team to create a look to the game that was based upon the South Pacific and other Asian island cultures, including Japan and Taiwan, instead of basing it on what most of the previous series had been based on, medieval European fantasy, which he felt wouldn't push the development team enough.
The game became a massive critical and commercial success, but with the success of Final Fantasy X, like another of the series' main storytellers, Sakaguchi Kitase would go on to take more of a back seat in Square Enix's game development. Instead of being one of Square's premier storytellers, Kitase has now become upper management and a producer of many of Square's projects, including Kingdom Hearts, The Third Birthday, and the later Final Fantasy games, including Final Fantasy XV.
And including Final Fantasy XIII. And pretty much everything that's come out that's been Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts, Kitase has been like the producer on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kitase had stated that his favorite Final Fantasy character is that of Cloud Strife and became the most quoted guy at Square Enix when asked about a possible remake for Final Fantasy VII.
He states Square Enix will only consider creating a remake of Final Fantasy VII once it exceeds the quality of that game with a brand new game in the franchise.
Later, however, he stated,
I can honestly tell you I would love to remake Final Fantasy VII. If you simply ask me if I personally would like to do that, yes, I would. Definitely. There is no lie about it, but you must believe me when I say it would take a lot to happen.
As for other remakes in the series, and we talked about remakes and remasters last week,
Right.
Kitase was in charge of the development of the HD remaster of Final Fantasy X. And when asked what the next one, which Final Fantasy should they update next, he stated,
If we had to single out one of the vast numbers of Final Fantasy titles which we could make in HD, it would have to be Final Fantasy XII, which we totally called. Although this information's been out for a while, so
yeah. Kitase's effect, we didn't read that quote.
No.
Last week, we should have. Kitase's effect on the series as a whole has been felt in its movie-like quality. And this is kind of the point we're trying to make. Kitase was the director or co-director of the three most critically successful Final Fantasy games, 6, 7, and 10, as well as the three most commercially successful games in the series, 7, 10, and 8, respectively. What's notable about the games that Kitase headed, as opposed to ones headed by, let's say, Sakaguchi, is the cinematic feel to his games. As a trained filmmaker and writer, it can be deduced that Kitase was the one who was responsible for the movie-like, or the one who was most responsible for the movie-like structural quality of the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 era Final Fantasies, which led to the series being massively successful during that time.
There is no question about it. Final Fantasy wouldn't be Final Fantasy without Yoshinori Kitase. And for that, we thank you, and for the rewriting of 7.
Exactly. Detective Joe.
I don't know. The game probably still would have been good, but it would have been really awkward. For that part.
So there is more to his career as a producer, of course, all the later Final Fantasies, but as a producer, he's more kind of a... it's kind of a backseat role. Honestly, he's honing other directors and writers, and he's making some decisions for them, but most of the creative decisions are going to be made by other people on the staff. So I felt like it wasn't necessary to go into his producing career, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
because it would be great to see him return to a director or writer.
Yeah, he did some
kind of work.
He was a part of some really good games, so
he was
nice.
And he talked about how he kind of wanted to return to 10.3 also, and I didn't put that in our spotlight thing, but I do remember seeing stuff on that.
10.3?
10.3.
No.
He just said he was interested, and, he really is, at least for me, Final Fantasy... for me, is the PlayStation era.
Yeah, and the PlayStation 2 era.
And the PlayStation 2 era, because that's the one I have the most connection with. I mean, we've been playing the old school games recently, so
yeah,
we know the games, but those are the ones I have probably the fondest memories of playing.
Yeah.
And he is what I can tell is the biggest part of that.
Yeah, epic feel of the games. I mean, they had an epic feel before, but
Right.
now it's so grand. And
Like
its
the
scale.
movie cutscenes of 7.
Yeah, they're insane.
The idea to do that and to bring the series into a third dimension and change the series around during 7, and of course 6, its storytelling is far superior than the storytelling of the first 5 games. I know
Yeah,
we'll
and-
get to that later when we
and a multitude of
review
the later
6,
ones
of course. Yeah, no, he's a very good creative individual behind the Final Fantasy game, and unlike Sakaguchi, he's still working at Square Enix.
Yeah. Although we'll have to play Sakaguchi's game that he came out with.
Well, he's come out with like 3 games. So.
Yeah, there's one where he came out with it and he like worked with Naboo again.
Oh, Last Story.
Last
That's
Story,
it.
yeah. That
It's
one's
on
supposed to be
it's
pretty
on
good.
the Wii.
Oh, damn it. Well,
The soundtrack is gorgeous for it, though.
I'm
Check
sure it
out the
is.
soundtrack. Yeah.
we'll get there.
Hironobu should just come back,
Yeah, we need you.
take over the company, and once it goes bankrupt with its 12th, Tomb Raider game that fails.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, they've only really released a couple of them since they bought it.
I know.
But-
I'm just kidding. Really. All right. So we do have something. We have a new segment coming up here. And
Yeah.
So we're gonna try our first one today, and this new segment is Spot the FF. It's a segment that was suggested in the forums, and we're gonna talk about a little bit about Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed our spotlight. Let's move on. Okay, so speaking of Sniper 912, he actually was the one who suggested this. It's our new segment is going to be Final Fantasy and other media,
Or in video games, too.
or in other video games. I'm going to say not video games that are Square Enix.
Oh, that's going to limit it to basically none.
No, that's not necessarily true. Spot the FF.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. And of course, I'm going to make a new thread. So the original thread was in the ideas for future episodes, but since it's now going to become a segment, we're going to put it in a new thread for you guys to put new Spot the FF. Whenever you spot something in another media that has something to do with Final Fantasy, put it in there.
Yeah. let us know, and we'll
Video
check it
clips or pictures are, of course, links to those kind of things would help.
out. Yeah. So we don't have to search for it forever.
Right, exactly. Anyway, the first one, of course, probably the most famous example, comes from the first Charlie's Angels movie remake from 2000. Stars Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu, which... Man, Lucy Liu.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the scene where she comes out and she's like falls down into someone's backyard and she's naked, and these 2 kids in the foreground are playing Final Fantasy VIII. They both have controllers in their hands.
Yeah.
And they're playing in the garden. They're fighting the stupid things in the garden, and they're gonna summon Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, it's really weird that they had both of them using a controller. I mean,
Right, exactly. They probably were just like, oh, what video games do we have around here? And then someone just grabbed that game. And then they're like, just pretend you're both playing.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is,
that's weird, huh?
it's so weird and unfortunate.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that in that movie, though, and being like, hey, that's a single-player game.
On the forum, we like kept on going back and forth as to which Charlie's Angels it was. And luckily, what's his name?
Jake?
Jacob. He put a link to the actual video.
Yeah.
Which thank you, by the way. Anyway, it's funny that they just so give not a shit about whether or not the game is 2-player.
Yeah. It's a disgrace.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is our first Spot the FF game. And thank you, Sniper912, and thank you, Jacob, for getting the right video. Let's move on, because we have a new Did You Know?
Nice.
Did you know? Did you know? Did you know, my friend? All this cool shit. Sick origins of Final Fantasy.
And other stuff you might not have known, but maybe you know, but that's okay. We're still gonna do a segment called Did You Know?
Did you know that Xenogears was one of the first iterations of Final Fantasy VII?
Yes and no. I knew it from the last time we tried to do this segment. No, I didn't know it before that.
Are you suggesting to our listeners that we may have tried recording this segment and then messed up?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just putting food for thought out there. So anyway, who submitted this?
Okay, this is from Ren FM in our Did You Know section of our forums.
Okay.
He says, did you know Xenogears was originally Final Fantasy VII? And I had to look into this because I was like, what?
I could understand.
Anyway, it's true. Xenogears and Xenosaga's origin in Xenogears it came from the first draft, one of the first drafts of what the Final Fantasy VII story was going to be.
Yeah, it was at least a submitted script.
Yeah, it was a submitted scenario, and it comes from there's an interview here from Soraya Saga, which is a really weird name.
Yeah.
This is the reason we messed up on our on our last thing, because I was like, that cannot be his name.
But it totally is.
But yeah, Soraya Saga. And it's an interview on siliconera.com from 2010 on June 11th. And this is where this is the question that the interviewer asks. He says, going way back, can you tell us about the origin of Xenogears? How did development of such an ambitious story begin, and how did you weave in elements from philosophers like Nietzsche and... Thank you, Caleb.
It's Nietzsche.
It's Nietzsche, whatever. And psychologists such as Jung and Freud.
And Soraya says, I and Tetsuya Takahashi originally submitted it as a script idea for Final Fantasy VII, while we were told that it was too dark and complicated for a fantasy. The boss was kind enough to give Takahashi a chance to launch a new project. Then Takahashi and I wrote up the full screenplay, which contained cutscene dialogues and final form. Thus, the project was born.
Yeah. So, now we love what Final Fantasy VII is.
Right.
Right. So, we're glad that this didn't happen. But Xenogears is a good game.
Supposedly. Haven't played it.
You haven't played it. I can't believe they said that it was too dark, though. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like 7 is plenty dark.
Yeah, it is pretty
And
dark.
7's much darker than the previous 6 games before it. I feel, at least in feel of the game. Plus, there's blood.
Yeah, although there are some messed up parts in all of them, but it doesn't feel realistic.
Right.
necessarily.
Kefka poisoning an
Yeah, the
entire
whole town.
city. But somehow everybody drank some of the water within 1 minute.
Yeah, we find that really weird. Everyone's just insta dead. They all just got thirsty
Yeah.
looking at old Kefka.
Anyway, that's a very interesting Did You Know segment.
Yeah, keep submitting them and we'll keep rating them.
All right. Let's go on to our question segment, shall we?
Let's do it.
Questions for us. We would like to hear from you. You. To our forums. Or contact us on Twitter. Get on and ask your questions. We'll answer them within a week. This is the question segment. Ask and you will receive.
All right, so our first question for our question segment is, what is your favorite art style in a Final Fantasy game?
And this
From
one comes
Void,
from
Green Mushroom.
Green
and
Mushroom.
he also states, I love the stylized look of FF9.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Joe? What is your favorite?
Favorite art style from Final Fantasy? I know 5 is my least favorite probably art style wise.
Yeah, the color palette we mentioned.
Yeah, the color palette's really dull and not very interesting. 6 is really great.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's got that fantasy feel, and then the adventure. I don't know. I don't really know how to express color palette preferences or art style preferences, but I know I love the feel of 6.
Okay.
And I also like the feel of 8.
Yeah.
The look of 8. Yeah, I like it
Okay.
quite a bit.
Well, I'm gonna agree with you on 6. I enjoy how it's it's kind of in between the anime-esque that 7 took and the 2D.
Yeah, it's got some of the steampunk kind of design to it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then I also enjoy 12s. I know everyone hates on 12, but I think 12 looks more like a real event than most of them. Honestly, like 10, the belts on the Black Mage. What's her name again?
Lulu.
Lulu. Wow, God. I played a lot of 10, and so I shouldn't be forgetting that. But that design bugs me. The stuff in Xanarkin that just looks totally random bugs me.
Yeah,
And then-
10's design is really out there.
yeah, it's like crazy.
And
I love the game, but the design.
yeah, the
is-
game. There's some design aspects that I like about 10. I
Yeah.
do like the color palette of 10.
It's
the,
really
the
good.
blues or in the whites, really beautiful stuff.
Oron's design is excellent too.
Yeah.
Like the hair on the blue dude, Seymour. Crazy.
What?
Yeah, it's just like antlers. You know what I mean?
What's great about Final Fantasy IX that Green Mushroom pointed out, not that he pointed this out, but
Sure, he
likes
intended
Final
it.
Fantasy IX. What I think is great about Final Fantasy IX's design is that, as we all know, it's kind of like the in between. It's supposed to have been like a kind of a reverse stepping stone for the Final Fantasy series from the
Right.
2D look of the games, because there's definitely a difference in look from the 2D versions and the 3D versions.
Oh, yeah.
If not just a third dimension. It kind of meshes the two together, kind of that medieval Final Fantasy European kind of look to it, along with the anime style that came out with 7 and
Yeah.
onward. It kind of takes
It's
those
like a
two
throwback
things together. Yeah,
to the old
it's a good
ways.
throwback. So if you're looking at a Final Fantasy game to represent all of them in terms of look, 9 is kind of a good way to go.
Yeah, I could see that.
Even though I think 6 is probably the prettiest,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, I enjoy 6 and 12s, like I said, just because it looks human.
All right, so thank you, Void,
Yeah, thanks
for
again.
your question, and every question that you've submitted during the week.
Right.
We also have another question.
From Void.
Was it from Void?
Yeah, the other one he tweeted us.
Oh, he tweeted us another one.
Yeah, this one was, who is your favorite non-playable character in a Final Fantasy game?
Oh,
This
Oh,
is
I
tough.
was
There's a
thinking-
lot of them.
Hold on a second. I was totally on a different track because we got another one in the forum, which we'll get to in a second. Okay. Who's your favorite non-playable character in a Final Fantasy game? Non-playable. Ooh,
That's tough to define. I mean,
it means you don't play it.
well, yeah, but you don't play a lot of people. You never play Gilgamesh, and I think Gilgamesh is awesome. You don't
Gilgamesh.
play-
Yeah, in from 5?
From 5 and from 12 and from
Okay.
random.
Oh,
places.
man. I should have thought. I didn't even see this question before we started the segment. You go first because I got to think about this first.
I'm going to probably go with Gilgamesh. I
You go with
enjoy,
Gilgamesh.
yeah, he's kind of zany, and the fight scene with him in 12 is really entertaining. I enjoyed that a lot. So I really like Gilgamesh. Plus, he's a badass. I mean, he'd be sweet to have in your team, right?
Right.
So making him a favorable, non-playable character, just thinking about playing him, kind of gives him a boost up from that. And there have been characters throughout the series that I think would be fun to play, like the what is that guy's name in 7? The other guy that has a gun arm, who's
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name either right now.
who's Barrett's
People who are
daughters.
listening are like, dude, it's this. And they're like,
Well, we've had a lot of names thrown at us from these games recently, so
that would be sweet, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he would be cool, and kind of going in his story a little more would be cool too. So, but I don't know. What do you think?
I'm still having troubles thinking about it. For non-playable characters, there's plenty of bad guys that I'd be like, well, it'd be cool to destroy.
Yeah, like X Death or
Like X-Death, sure.
Zandy.
Good old Zunde.
Yeah, the crappy final boss / not final boss.
I'd say all the powers that the sorceress Adele has in Final Fantasy VIII. I think it'd be cool to exploit those.
Yeah.
In a game, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as non-playable characters, there aren't any sticking out to me that I really want to play.
Yeah.
Although for others, I'm sure there's, like you said, Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
So.
Or Sin. That'd be sweet. It's like lay waste to
it'd be
entire
sweet to have like
civilizations.
a little mini game that's like there's Machina and you have to like follow the Machina compass.
Yeah, and like
and
destroy it.
Destroy whatever. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. That's an awesome mini game idea.
So we had one more.
We do have another question segment.
Okay.
It's the Ultimate Party. It's from Batman. Who said? I think he said something about his last name actually being Batman.
That's Bat.
Oh, it's Bat.
Yeah, with
with
two
two
T's. And the
Ts.
second T is silent, so it's just Bat. We don't have to go Bat anymore.
So he's
intentional.
Batman.
Yes.
As in his name, not as in a bat.
Right.
It's disappointing, man.
You were hoping he was a bat?
I was hoping his name was Batman.
Oh.
I read his
You read his thing wrong?
thing in a hurry, I guess.
Oh, boy.
All right, so this is from Batman. He says, I recently picked up Theater Rhythm. I'm not big on rhythm games, but this is pretty addicting. And you played the demo, right? Kate?
Yeah, it was fun.
And started a quest. The game asks you to choose a party out of all of the FF characters. This got me thinking, what would my ultimate 4-member Final Fantasy party look like? And here's what he came up with. He says, Squall, Cloud, Celis, and Noel. Noel Christ from Final Fantasy 13 too.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
so Caleb, if you were to have a 4-party member of, let's say any Final Fantasy characters, not necessarily ones available in Theater Rhythm,
Right.
who would you put in a party?
My party, and I did write this on the forum, and I think it's still pretty much the same because I feel it's very solid. My ultimate Final Fantasy party would be Auron. You know, the sick damage, the breaking people's armor, all of his abilities, and his sweet jug of wine. Barrett, also super powerful, super beefy, attack stuff that's flying. I don't have to worry about any of that.
And you do love the beef.
I do love the beef. Probably Fusoya for spells, casting, anything godly to do with magic. He's pretty intense in 4.
You're right.
And Shadow, probably. Because I want to have a ninja just because of the throw ability is godly.
The throw ability.
In 3, it was sick, right? But I mean, I can't really choose anyone from 3 because they're not real characters. They're like enthusiasts. They're entrepreneurs that'll do any job that'll pay him, kind of a thing. So
Okay.
I went with Shadow because he's awesome. He's got his ridiculous dog that'll just gore anything, on command. As long as I don't have to pay for him, I would say so. Shadow for my 4th. What about you?
If I were to have, I'm not saying Theater Rhythm here, but four people from Final Fantasy to make a party out of, it would have to be Bartz with the mime ability.
Okay.
And then I was thinking either Cloud or Squall, and they're hard to pick from because they're basically the same character.
Yeah.
Cloud with Knights of the Round.
Okay.
And let's get some support in there. So let's say Yuna
It's a good
with
choice.
her white magic all the way filled out with her summons. And who else? A 4th party member. Vivi from Final Fantasy IX with some black magic on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I would just use their powerful shit because you got the white, you got the black, you got the warrior, and then you have a guy to mime all that shit.
Yeah, that would be pretty intense.
So that's I think Bart's, Yuna, Cloud, and Vivi. Definitely.
Okay, yeah, I was torn between Vivi and Fusoya, but Fusoya I ended up
Fusoya
choosing.
has both, right?
Yeah, because he's like
It's both black and white magic.
Yeah, so I figured I'd just get it all in one package.
Yeah, that's probably smart, I guess.
Yeah.
Certainly, I could do Fusoya and then just do like another really strong warrior type. Probably Waka with his, ball that turns everything to stone.
Yeah, that'd be makes sense. That'd be good.
Anyway, yeah, I guess
And that would cover the aerial enemies too, so you don't have to worry about messing with them.
Exactly. That would cover the aerial.
I was torn between him and Barrett, but I prefer Barrett as character. So.
Honestly, like another party, dream party would just be the party that ends up at the end of Final Fantasy V with all their shit.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Everybody needs the mime ability, of course.
Yeah, if you want it to be easy. Yeah. Krille.
It's
pretty awesome.
mime and samurai.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the wreckage.
exactly. All right, guys. Well, I think that ends it for this episode, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we got everything covered.
Yep. So we're gonna try to beat Final Fantasy by next Sunday. I'm not gonna guarantee it though at this point, just because of how stuck we are. We're both very stuck in the game.
Yeah, to some extent.
But we will definitely play as much Final Fantasy VI as we can this week. So we're gonna sign off and start doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys have a good week.
And enjoy the grind along with us. Hopefully we can get past the part that we're at before you guys can, or else it's really sad. But either way, enjoy the grind and enjoy the floating continent for, was it the second time? I think it's only the second time.
There's been 3 floating continents in the series. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and so far.
Oh.
I think so far it's only the second.
Final Fantasy 3 had a floating continent.
Yeah, and then 6.
Okay. So, yeah, the second time.
Yeah, it's a big theme, though, honestly, with Midgar and all that. Anyway, yeah, enjoy the floating continent when you get there, guys. It's quite the experience.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGollier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGollier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.